888. V'yizor misalam, misali misatzel misrapos. The person has to be careful, he says, becoming negligent. Hisalim means you turn a blind eye, you're not fully focused. Hisatzel. Hisatzel means laid back, slothful. Misrapos. Sluggish. V'hadbe kazrizus bizrizus. You should associate zeal with zeal. V'hardev sevil b'sevil. He says, and follow forbearance with forbearance. You know, somebody says, you know, I've done mine. Person applies himself, then he slackens off. No, there's no letting up. The person has to assume a certain posture continuously. To do something, you do something with focus, with precision, with zeal, and that's the way you have to do it. And one continuously this way. Ba'adrogo, usmocho madrega min amidas hatovas esasomuch lo. What does this mean? Follow each degree of virtue with one that comes after it. I think what he means to say is, you know, in terms of personal development and refinement, you can't skip steps. You know, I'm that. What do you mean you're that? You haven't addressed something which is before that, so you can't go there. Meaning, I always say, you know, it says, Avraham Avinu was tested with 10 tests. It started off, let's say the first test was Lech Lecha. If the first test would have been, take your child and bring him as a korban, he couldn't have dealt with it. Couldn't have dealt with it. It's a growth pattern. You meet one test, now you're ready for the next test. With each test, you come to another level of understanding and development. So the same thing, one virtue has to follow the others. There's an order, there's a pattern of growth, of development. He says you should not fail to examine your heart, make an accounting with yourself continuously. There's an expression of don't fool yourself. You know, people, they fool themselves. What does that mean? Because if they would really evaluate the true intention, they'd understand it's not what they believe it is, or what they want to believe it is. So therefore, there's always this continuous conflict of interest we have to do things what we want to do them, not because it's necessarily the right thing to do. And as therefore, you have to be continuously, you have to evaluate your feelings. You hear this? You have to continuously engage in delving in this particular work, Chovos HaLevavos, and to read it. V'chazara l'nyonov. You know, somebody asked me, what are we going to do after we finish Chovos HaLevavos? I want to give credit where credit is due. The reason why I was learning Chovos HaLevavos, David was on my case for years. When are we going to study Chovos HaLevavos? It's a classical Mussar work. But I could tell you, so what are we going to do next? I said, if it was up to me, I'd start from the beginning again. Because it's so profound, and there's so many levels in terms of, and it's a level, an approach which all the other Mussar Sfarim don't approach. It's not similar to this approach. This is really evaluating the psyche and giving a person an understanding of what he is in every aspect of his function. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Moshe has to wait for Chelik another few years, I guess. Okay. V'chakor al toldosov, he says, chazor al inyonov, you should review all the issues, and you should be vigilant regarding its fundamentals. V'chakor al toldosav todir. And you should always evaluate the derivatives continuously. You know, Ezil Chochem Rosa Nolad. Who's the wise man? The one who sees ultimately. Chakor toldosav. Even though something may appear to be fine, but you never know what it will cause. There's causality. Chofetz Chaim writes in one location, speaks about people not observing Shabbos properly, and level of culpability if you do something which ultimately will cause you to violate Shabbos. He gives an example. A person should start this halacha that you're not supposed to travel overseas if it's within 3 days, meaning go on a boat. You should leave 3 days before. If it's what? For Dvar Rishus. Dvar Mitzvah, even Erev Shabbos you're permitted. But otherwise, it should be 3 days before. It's a mission in Shabbos. Because there could be all kinds of issues which lead to Chilul Shabbos. So he speaks about a situation. A person didn't take enough time to prepare for a certain trip, even though when he'll be confronted with Shabbos, it'll be an ones. It'll be something it's beyond his, and it'll be justified. But since initially, if he would have made the decision and prepared properly, he wouldn't have come upon that. This culpability, although the situation is ones. That's what the Chofetz Chaim writes. Because you're the one who caused the ones to be. That's it. So you have to look at toldos. I do something now, but the question is, what I'm doing now is legal, ethical, moral. But ultimately, it's going to cause other people's hardships. I'll give you an example. The big supermarket chains. You know how many people were put out of business? How much hardships were caused to the individuals? You say, well, but that's the cost of advancing society. You know, we have to look at the bigger picture. You can't look at people. But literally, endless people's lives were affected negatively because of the supermarket chains and other things. The Chovos Chaim, you know, he never took charity from anybody. So his wife ran a grocery store. Every day he would come in and he would check over the books, you know, to make sure everything was 100%, check the scales to make sure the scales were always right, and he checks over the books. He sees they're making tremendous profits. And everything, the inventory, it's everything is right, but he can't understand why are we being so successful. Evidently, because people know he's the proprietor of the store. It's not his wife, it's him. As a result of that, his competition is losing out. So all the business coming his way, he says to his wife, we're shutting the store down. Because people are patronizing because I'm the Chofetz Chaim and causing hardship to someone else, we're shutting the store down. I'm not going to be the cause of somebody else. What do you do wrong? Doesn't make a difference. That's what the Chofetz Chaim was the Chofetz Chaim. And that's why he was special. That for my gain, it should be at somebody else's expense, that's unacceptable. And he would not do it.
What about the fact that when Walmart comes to town, the prices drop 15 to 20%, and the benefit to those people...
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong. But do people even take that into consideration initially? It's a free country. You do what you want. Ultimately, say that is a benefit. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying it's wrong. But initially, when the decision was made, were all these issues ever evaluated to take into consideration? Was it? You want to know something? I believe, you know, something, the question is, what's the value of saving money, and what's the value of the work ethic? If everybody has to run their own shop and fend for themselves, it's a different work ethic. If you're a consumer and you work in an office, it's not like the person who runs the store. It's a different work ethic. It's a different fabric of America is different because of all this. Everything becomes so commercialized. You're a consumer, you buy, but you're not actually the proprietor. A person who's a proprietor has much greater level of responsibility. So in the profile of society, it's a different society because of this. So you'd say, well, that's the way it is. You know, okay. I mean, everything has to be taken into account. No, he was a chassid. So can I ask a question? So what about Hasogas Gvul? There's laws of Hasokas Gvul. If one community could only support one establishment, and you open up, you say, look, your parnos is there, but you still have no right to do it. You're infringing on somebody else's livelihood. You're not permitted to do it. It's considered stealing.
So what would you say, Rabbi, about Amazon.com? So this company hasn't made money since it started, breaking even. But they're offering extremely good prices,
So what's the value of the company?
billions and billions.
Now I'm asking you, so why are you there in business?
Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get as much market share as possible so that ultimately it will make money. And there's a belief that that will happen. So what's happening...
No, then they raise, if they put everybody out of business, then they raise the prices.
They know.
That's the...
But in the meantime, what they're doing is they're offering tremendous convenience. It arrives at your doorstep. You don't even have to go to the store. You've got tremendous choice. Anything that you want, you can buy, as opposed to going to the little mom and pop where you have a few items on the shelf. And the prices are very, very sharp.
And if it's a problem with the delivery, Amazon.
And they'll fix it. I mean, the service is just unbelievable. So they're offering tremendous advantages to the consumer, but they're putting people out of business. See, left, right, and center.
Yep.
It's called the Amazon effect right now.
Can I ask you a question? There are antitrust laws. Monopolies are against, right? Why? Why did they institute these laws? It's a free country. To protect the other people, to protect the consumer, protect other establishments. So there is. You see, it's not simple. You see, there is such a conscience. Today, I'm not sure if they put in all these laws. No, they do because it's already on the books. But what if they come up with the idea themselves in today's society? Today's survival of the fittest. That's what it is. That is today's society. That's the mentality.
I think that this, in the current environment, there's a lot of sense about that. They're worried.
Because maybe too many people are being hurt.
And the people at the bottom could be worried. But you have, it's a competitive dynamic.
Yeah.
And what they're offering is really excellent.
Let's say we'd be able to prove that the intent is put everybody out of business, ultimately they're going to raise the price. If we would know factually that is that, would the government allow them? Probably not. Okay, so good. So you see, there's something not right about it.
But you don't know that that's the...
But they will. Why shouldn't they? It doesn't make sense. They shouldn't. Yeah, but they still have employees. They have. I understand.
It's not clear that that is... It's easy to say that.
If a person could make profit, why shouldn't he? Why shouldn't? It doesn't make any sense.
He wants market share.
So, but what's the value of market share? Market share is money.
Well, market share means that I can also buy my product.
I understand that. Right.
And I've established loyal
Right.
customers.
No one's ever seen a retailer not make money for 15 years on this scale.
Yeah.
And they're saying indefinitely, we don't care about making money with it.
Not possible. Okay. It's not reality. They're going to come in for the kill at the end of the day. You know, somebody once told me a story. It had to do with a Chabad Shaliach. And he was very nice to this Baal Tshuva. He wasn't a Baal Tshuva yet. And he says to the Shaliach, he says to him, it was out in South Africa, this Shaliach. And he says to the person, to the rabbi, he says, you know, Rabbi, what I like about you, you're very tolerant. He says, I'm not tolerant, I'm patient. That's what he said to him. Same thing with this, you know, they're patient.
There are other things that are going on. I mean, what they're also doing is they're helping start other businesses. So a company wants to start with a certain product, and they don't have access to the marketplace, but they've got great ideas. They can go to Amazon, and if Amazon carries them, these ideas, they can create a new company, drawings, and all the rest of it.
Okay, so that's
There's a whole